So you've got, I think, the educational environment, you've got the medication environment, which may or may not be needed, and then you have the other therapies, excuse me, like the speech and the occupational. But it sounds like you're on the very first step, and it also sounds like you're, trying to educate yourself. And I will tell you, this is not a woe is me or anything, but there is so much more available today than when, Mimi and Sunny and Erin were diagnosed. And there are communities. I appreciate that Erin is talking about it takes a village, and it does. I will tell you, we didn't, it was essentially me, myself, and I, and somewhat my then husband, but we didn't actually have a whole community of friends, and there were support groups and people could come together and talk about it, but it was sort of the blind leading the blind. Nobody really had success other than we had Temple Grandin to look at. And she, certainly set the bar high for what could be accomplished, as did her mother. But those would be the ways I would suggest. Also, certainly we did not go to Walden. Our path to Erin's course today is very different from that. But certainly the Emory Autism Center has tremendous resources, and I would encourage you to talk to them. And as there are also developmental pediatricians today, and several of them here in Georgia who are quite good, who also did not exist as a field essentially when we were growing up.
Thank you. I'm a mother of a 4-year-old who was diagnosed with high-functioning autism. As you know, you have your good days, your bad days, and your just downright horrible days. I guess my question is, we are actually struggling with the people that are closest to us. Our parents are, the type that are like, he looks normal. He looks normal. I can't tell you enough how much I cringe, even at my own mother that's telling me he looks normal. And I think she's also, I'm Hispanic, and she's kind of, they don't have that vast knowledge of autism, unfortunately. I don't think that it was very, they haven't been submerged to the culture of it. I think that it's a, astounding number of kids. I mean, in Georgia alone, it's 1 in 68, and it's more dominant in boys than it is in girls based on studies. So how do I break that barrier with my own family, with our own relatives, to say, this is who he is? I mean, he is no less than the normal child, but he does have high-functioning autism. However, we look at him and he is able to accomplish other things that our kids are able to do. But it's so confusing to the vast population where they just look at him and on the outside they're saying he's normal. He'll grow out of it. He'll overcome this. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, how do you overcome that? How do you try to educate others to understand that your child has high functioning autism?
For me, I didn't have that problem. In fact, it was probably more the reverse. My mom saying, after we finally told her, my mom saying, well, I knew there was something, that sort of thing. His family reacted a little differently. I just want to say to everybody, especially the moms, go with your gut feeling. And you know better than anybody, including the doctors and the therapists. You know what your child is capable of, and just keep pushing in that direction. Just keep, and help them push to reach their fullest potential, because they can do it. Really can. But as far as getting your family to accept it, I know it's hard in some cultures, and I think it was a little bit in the beginning with your family. Cash, I think, for them, because she didn't look like there was anything wrong. But I think gradually over time we began to accept it. We just continued to do what we needed to do, what we felt inside had to be done, because we knew she was capable of more. We just knew it. It's something and just kept pursuing, and eventually they come around. They really do. But you have to you have to explain things to them. As you're learning, you teach them. And they may not accept it at first, but that's all I can say. You might be able to.
Well, I think the best retort to that was something that Erin came up with the other day. Remember when you said to me, somebody told you that, oh yeah, you look normal, or you don't look autistic, and he said, well, you look normal. So what does normal look like? That's kind of interesting way of looking at it, and I just think that as Karen said, that you have to just encourage the child to do the best that they can, and ultimately things kind of work out. But there are a lot of people that kind of do have that mind of that stereotypes of what autistics are like. But there's such a wide range, and it is amazing what they can do. So
I'm going to jump in real quickly. I think you're exactly right, and I think one of the difficulties is sometimes you want, with autism, there isn't that physical aspect where it's, where somebody can see, and so, when you're in the market and that kid is having the incredible meltdown, right, and everybody thinks, oh, the kid is spoiled, the kid is this, the kid is that. Okay, we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I might suggest, if I may offer, which is, you're right, Mom, he does look normal, and that's a blessing, but that's not how autism is diagnosed. The question isn't whether he looks normal or has a third eye. The question is whether or not he's meeting the hallmarks of speech. The question is whether or not he's meeting the developmental milestones of, I don't know your child's exact issues. As an example, there are newsletters. I won't get into me, but there are a host of newsletters as an example, or material that I'm sure your school can give you, where you can look at a child's developmental milestones, and you can ask your mother, Mom, do you see him, speaking in full sentences, as an example? Do you see him doing this? Do you see him doing that? Well, these are the issues that a developmentally a typical child is meeting, and he's not. So maybe, you see what I'm saying? Come at it perhaps as a different way. That's just a thought.
I do need to interject as well about this same problem regarding the invisibleness of high-functioning autism. Among the organizations I'm working with, at least 2 have addressed the issue to the point where they feel it is now a serious concern depending on different cultural communities. That is why part of why I'm taking advocates under my wing of different types is for that very purpose, that these advocates, Mimi and Sunny being among the first, and their students in the future, will come to all the communities, yours included, and break down those stereotypes. That is our goal for the future, to realize not everything is visible on the surface. If everything was visible on the surface, the Titanic wouldn't have been sunken from an iceberg, now would it? Any further questions? Let's take this right here.
How you doing? My name's Routine, and I'm a proud mom of a 7-year-old with high-functioning autism. I remember when he was 4. And I remember when people had all these stereotypes about what our child was going to be, and even our pediatrician didn't want him diagnosed until he was older. And we just thought, well, we don't know how to help him unless we get him diagnosed. So we had him diagnosed at 2.5 years old. And we don't get emotional unless it comes to the kid. But the other day, my husband asked me, do you think he's going to be like the other kids? And I said, what do you mean? He's going to be better than the other kids. They're going to work for him. But I said that because I know what an amazing boy he is. And my husband does as well. I married a nerd, I am a nerd, and had a nerd baby. So it's great. But I have to say, I'm so glad to have seen you guys, because really next to the kid and my husband, you guys are making the country, because I know. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak, because he's 7 and I'm thinking about what's he going to be like when he's 20. I'm expecting him to go to MIT, and a lot of times, that's
Yes.
where a lot of
Yes.
a lot of times, people, when I tell them, my son has autism, for us, we're raising our son who happens to have autism. We're not raising the autistic child.
That's right.
So some people tend to look at us and go, oh, and I'm like, don't feel bad for us. He understands French, he understands Spanish a little bit. And so my question, I guess, is really for the moms. He's an only child, and I'm not Halle Berry, so I'm not having any more kids. But how do we get him to make friends? People love him when they see him, because he's a cute 7-year-old, but then when they realize he can't answer them the way that they're used to, I kind of have to be his wingman on the playground, and I don't mind doing it, but I want him to flourish in his own child world. So how do I get him to have friends, and how do I get him to make friends? Because play dates aren't fun play dates, and it's awesome, but it's also with a child who's considered special needs, who's highly gifted, and ironically to me, they share the same issues, which is great. So I hope he goes to MIT too. But how do I get him to have friends?
Area, we live in the forest, as Magic Beast said, when she said, why does Aunt Marty live in the forest? We like it. So Sunny was an only child. I had her at age 40. I knew I never wanted more than one. No expectations, nothing, just whatever God gives me, I'll love. And so we moved to Decatur for a couple of years, and she went to Walden. She had some playmates in that community. Then we moved back to the forest. What do we do? So partly is what any mother would face these days, trying to get playmates for your kids, even if you live in a subdivision. Always driving, arranging things, going to the park, doing this and that, trying to hook these kids up. Because we homeschooled after age 5, that was another challenge. Like, here we are, the two of us. She needs people her age. So luckily in Gwinnett County, the homeschooling community at that time was beginning to mushroom, and there was always plenty to do. So she saw plenty of kids, but I've always thought that special or developmental disabilities and neurotypical, it's really like oil and water. You may try to push them together, they really don't mix, or they don't mix very well. And so try away, it just, more often than not, it doesn't work. She was blessed to have a neighborhood friend who also lived in the forest 2 doors down, neurotypical. They were childhood friends out of necessity and desire, and that was a blessing. But other than Sarah, it was hard. It wasn't until Sunny was 18 that we went to a panel discussion at Spectrum, the Atlanta Spectrum, which meets in Duluth. Saw a panel of young adults saying what their future, what their lives were like as young adults. And I went, oh, those are her people. I've never seen them before. They exist.
That was where Sunny and I first met each other, as I was one of those panelists.
Yes. And it was life-changing. I said, she does have a future, and it's going to be a good one. And the child that you know who's small, and you're afraid for that child, and you're confused, and you're just getting through each day doing the best you can, that child, in some ways, has no resemblance to the adult that he or she will become. But now Sunny, as a young adult, is getting a group of friends who are wonderful people who are so much like her. And I'm just astonished and grateful that she is coming into her own. But as far as when they're young, getting them playmates, I mean, I wouldn't put a whole lot of energy into trying to make them be real friends, because you can get them together with children. They can enjoy each other, but I don't know, just for us, it just didn't seem to connect.
May I add to that?
Oh,
Sure. Sorry. Yeah, let me say something real quickly and then you can go.
Sure.
Two things, ma'am. Two things real quickly. I wouldn't worry about it, but I would do one thing that I think you can do. I think if you group your son with people with similar interests, so that is an example, you said you and your husband are nerds and your son is really good at X. If you put him in an activity, if he can, on X, then he and the others are communicating on X.